The petrification device in Dr. Stone is hiding a pretty big and dangerous secret that not a lot of us are talking about. From the beginning of the series, we already know a green light stretched across the earth and turned every human being into stone. We also already know the who and the why. The Medusa, alien parasites that were hoping to use the human beings for reproduction. But not a lot of people question the how. How were these tiny machine parasites able to petrify an entire planet? What exactly is the green light? What is the secret behind petrification? Well, to answer all of these questions, we're going to have to deep dive into not only the lore of the story, but also subatomic particle science. And the secret is so exhilarating, you have to get excited. To understand how Y-Man petrified the entire planet, we need to quickly talk about what the Y-Man or the Medusa is. A Medusa or a Y-Man is an alien biological machine, and no one knows where they come from. Somewhere in the universe, these machines were created by someone, and even Y-Man doesn't know who that person is. But like all living things, Y-Man has one goal: to survive, to reproduce itself. But the problem is they have neither the means nor the ability to make more of themselves. Hence why they go around the universe searching for intelligent species and petrifying them. We explain this in detail in another video, so go check that one out, after this one of course. But for now, I want to focus on the Y-Man machine itself, because that will give us a sense of how it works. So with that being said, let's put on our science hats, grab a shovel, and dig deep. An average Medusa unit is shaped like a trifold knot that looks a lot like a Mobius strip. We have no idea what these machines are made out of, but we can make a few inferences. They're made of an unrecognizable material, with etchings fine-tuned into their surfaces. Joel, the watch guy, says that the whole thing is so precise that it might as well have been 3D printed. The only recognizable component that we see on the bodies is the diamonds at the base of their circuitry. The diamonds serve as a battery, and the more a Medusa uses their abilities, the more the diamond battery blackens, and it will need to be changed. But things get exciting when we start to look at what they can do. Each Medusa unit can emit a ray of light that targets a specific organism, and when that organism gets bathed in that ray, they turn to stone. And it's not just the organism. It's everything that the organism produced: their blood, sweat, and freaking hair follicles. As a matter of fact, when the crew decided that they were going to build a space elevator, which would make it easier to deliver things to space, they needed a material that would help stretch from the Earth's surface and into space. The problem is no material was good enough, so they decided to use freaking silk threads from silkworms. They created kilometers of silk thread cables from the ground and into space. It was a literal silk road. But they didn't just use regular silk threads. They first of all had the Medusa unit turn it into stone first. Because anything they petrify is surprisingly durable, and it's capable of conducting electricity. This is why every human they petrified was able to maintain their structural integrity for thousands of years. It's honestly a magical piece of tech. But the question is, how does it work? How are the Medusas able to petrify millions of people over a wide area? How does the petrification process occur? Why does it heal people? I mean, we saw instances where people who were literally broken to pieces got reassembled, and after the revival fluid was poured on them, they regained consciousness. And not only that, all the fractures and broken body parts were mended. Actually, do you think this would work on my heart? But how the hell does this happen? Well, to figure that out, I think it's time for us to expose the secrets of the Medusas and how they work. In the last episode and in chapter 232 of the manga, we're told that every single Medusa unit has access to something called the Higgs field. And if you don't know what that means, I don't blame you. But it's basically by Higgs field manipulation that they're able to petrify people. But what is this Higgs field? Now, if you're a fan of the Big Bang Theory, you've probably heard Sheldon talk about the Higgs boson particle. The Higgs boson particle is actually made from the Higgs field. If you remember our rudimentary science class, there were some things called subatomic particles. You know, the protons, electrons, and the Jimmy neutrons. It's just neutron. Basically, it's the things that make up atoms. There are also other subatomic particles like quarks, muons, tau, neutrinos, and freaking photons, which are the particles of light and electricity. Every single one of these, to some capacity, interacts with what is known as the Higgs field. As a matter of fact, the mass of an electron and the mass of a quark are directly derived from the Higgs field. The Higgs field is the name we gave to the energy field that exists everywhere in the universe. It's like a swimming pool that subatomic particles swim in, and the way they swim in it and interact with it determines the mass of those particles. You're probably already wondering, what does this have to do with Y-Man? The truth is, every single particle has something called a coupling constant, and this coupling constant determines how much they'll interact with the Higgs field, and that interaction gives them mass. If you're a little confused, trust me, so was I. But what this really means is that the subatomic particles like electrons, quarks, protons, and neutrons are like celebrities, and the coupling constant is their level of popularity, and the Higgs field is their fans. Now, when electrons and quarks try to move in a vacuum of space, their fans, the Higgs field, rush towards them and prevent them from moving as freely as they want to, and this is what gives particles mass. The amount of their coupling constant will determine the number of fans that will stand in their way when they're trying to move. Quarks have a high coupling constant, so the Higgs field restricts them even more. Electrons have a low coupling constant, so they're able to move more freely in the Higgs field. Photons, which are light particles, have a coupling constant that is equivalent to 0, hence the Higgs field doesn't even bother them. So they move at the speed a particle will move with when it's undisturbed by the Higgs field, and that is what we call the speed of light. This is the layman's way of explaining it. It's the best I can do. I'm sorry, I have a theater degree and watch a lot of SciShow, so please don't bash me in the comment sections with your particle physics degrees. I am very fragile. Things like quarks, which make up protons or neutrons, interact with the Higgs field a lot. It's like putting a rudder through mud or having a lot of people crowd around you. When a particle interacts with the Higgs field, depending on its mass, it will find it very hard to move. So it either stays in place or moves slowly, and when you move it to a macro scale, the Higgs field can determine the state of physical matter. Essentially, since the Higgs field determines the mass and movement of subatomic particles, it also determines the mass and movement of atoms, molecules, and basically everything. Fun fact, when a particle causes a rupture in the Higgs field, that's what causes the Higgs boson particle Sheldon is always talking about. Now, according to Dr. Stone, the Medusas are able to manipulate the Higgs field, which means this alien tech treats the Higgs field less like a quantum field and more like a structure that they can increase and reduce its density. If we stick to the celebrity and fans metaphor, the Medusa units are able to increase the number of fans that a subatomic particle has, and by doing so, they can alter the mass of matter. Meaning, if an electron or an atom or a particular organism is trying to move through space, the Medusa's beam can choose to add more Higgs field in its way, and by so doing, restricts the movement of everything within that organism until it has no other choice but to stay in one place. What we call the petrification process is a subatomic Higgs field manipulation that restricts the resting mass of subatomic particles. Essentially, it forces particles to stop moving around their nucleus. It basically makes things like electrons, which have distinct orbits around their nucleus, move closer and closer to the center. This increases their mass, and at the same time, it changes the nature of the physical property that the electrons originally were. It turns them into this rigid and stone-like matrix, where all the original atoms, electrons, and cells that make up the organism are still there, but they're connected in one place. They do not move. They are essentially petrified. Higgs field manipulation is also how the Y-Man units can move in space, because if you can increase the concentration of the Higgs field around an area, you can also reduce the concentration of the Higgs field around that area. Okay, I thought that was a bar, but that might be a little confusing. What this means is they can reduce the Higgs field around themselves, and when they do that, nothing is holding their mass back in that direction, so they just float in any direction that they want by manipulating the Higgs field around them. It sounds complicated at first, but once you understand it, you'll see how genius and surprisingly simple it is. But the thing is, we can even take it a step further, because if we're being precise, what the Medusa actually does is that they release an energy that alters the Higgs field around a particular organism. This is the green light that gets released. I call it the Higgs field manipulative rays, or HFM rays. These rays generate enough energy to indefinitely alter the Higgs field around an organism, and then it stores that energy inside the organism so they can stay that way, kind of like a battery running a machine, or like a group of fans holding the celebrities in place forever. The energy hasn't gone anywhere, it's still there, and it can't be used. Whoever has been petrified, if they have enough brain power, they can utilize the energy to stay awake while petrified. And if they so desire, they can consume all the energy that's holding their particles in place. And when that happens, they will break out of the stone because the energy keeping them in place has been used. Using the celebrity and fans analogy, it will mean that, in order to get free, the celebrities start eating the fans that are holding them in place, and as their numbers reduce to a manageable degree, they can move around freely again. This is why the wise men said the petrification was designed in a way where an organism with high intelligence can easily break out of it. Human beings could have done the same thing, but most of them just didn't have enough brain power. It's why people like Senku Taiju broke out of the stone. They were conscious during the petrified state, so they just needed a little bit of nidal to speed up the process. Senku probably would have used all the energy in the stone up eventually, and he would have broken out all on his own. The same way that guys like Zeno, Stanley, and everyone who broke out all on their own did. From all indications, Zeno and his team broke out long before Senku broke out of the stone. But what about the depetrification process? How does that work? Well, it's actually simple. Nidal is a corrosive material that eats the petrified matrix. When it does this, it creates openings within the petrification matrix, and the stored HFM that is holding everything in place gets released. This will undo the petrification. Initially, the surface of the humans who had been petrified faced severe weathering processes and corrosion. It's basically dead surface cells from the outer layers of the body. When you add the nidal reagent to that, it really doesn't have much to work with. It's just an empty petrified husk, so it falls off the skin, leaving the actual living human depetrified. This is why scales fall off the skin whenever someone is newly depetrified. Some of those dead skin cells that fell off get embedded in the skin, and that's why we see a lot of the depetrified humans having black scars around their body in somewhat unique ways. But that kind of weathering only takes place over a very long period of time, which is why when the crew got petrified again during the Treasure Island arc and they got depetrified for a second time, there were no scales falling off again. Everything was good. So that's petrification and depetrification in a nutshell. But what about the healing properties of the process? How exactly does that work? Well guys, this is the part where things get even crazier. You see, before a Medusa releases the HFM rays, it first of all selects the organisms it wants to petrify. It analyzes the intended organism down to the DNA, and when it does that, it programs the HFM rays to arrange the cells and molecules and atoms of that organism in an ideal format. Now, if that person were to get unpetrified, provided all parts are accounted for, you're going to have your ideal body. But it doesn't stop there. During the process of depetrification, energy gets released, but that energy has to go somewhere. Energy can never be created or destroyed. It can only be changed, so that energy gets absorbed by the body, and it heals the body according to the mold of the ideal DNA that was scanned. Just like how human consciousness used HFM rays to survive, your body uses the same HFM rays to heal itself. The petrified organism will get a body free of injury, damage, or harm. You will literally be healed. So, in essence, the petrification process doesn't just bind particles in place, it stores energy inside of whatever is petrified. So, it doesn't matter if the being is broken to pieces as long as they're put together properly. The depetrification process will just return them to their ideal form, and everything will be okay. As a matter of fact, the energy is enough to bring back the dead, just like we saw with a lot of people who got killed during the South America arc. This is the big secret of the Y-Man. This is how they petrify living things and how they function the way they do. I was honestly shocked at how much thought went into this process. I mean, don't get me wrong, everything is fiction. The Higgs field isn't something that can actually be manipulated in such a way. But it is still fascinating how Riichiro Inagaki, the author of Dr. Stone, managed to blend these concepts together. The science is truly elegant. One other thing that I think is extremely important is that the Medusa units are also functionally immortal. I mean, yes, they can be destroyed, and their batteries need to be replaced, and oxygen is toxic to them. But as long as those factors are met, each Medusa can live for an indefinite amount of time. Like, these guys literally stayed on the surface of the moon for thousands of years, and God only knows how long they've been wandering through the cosmos looking for intelligent life. To the Medusas, living forever is the goal, which is why they're constantly baffled by the fact that humans don't want to live forever and why they're not pleased with living in a petrified state. They also operate as a sort of hive mind. but they still have individual expression. We saw this when Senku met the Y-Man towards the end of the series. One of the Medusas tried to petrify Senku, and another stopped it because they wanted to hear what Senku had to say. Not to mention the fact that a Y-Man unit stayed behind to witness the exciting future that Senku was talking about. With the Medusas, two things can be true at the same time. And this shows up with the way they perceive emotions, because while they may be sentient, immortal machines, they also have emotions. The crazy thing is they can turn on and shut off their emotions at will. As a matter of fact, the Y-Man unit that stayed behind put on its emotions in the bonus chapters of the manga, and things started getting sad. It talked about how it felt sad knowing that its friends were all going to die one day, and then it would be left alone, and all the time they shared would be gone in an instant. It basically did the Y-Man version of crying, and then it had to turn off its emotions again, and it was cool again. Suffice to say, these guys are even more interesting than we thought. So that's it for the secret of the petrification device. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Also, if you haven't yet, now you can check out the original Dr. Stone video and the truth about Y-Man and why they petrified Earth. Also, sign up for our newsletter. The link to our website is in the description below. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, then a sub to the channel will be exhilarating. そうするぜ、これは。